Hello, everyone. Today we have with us Andy Chadwick, co founder and SEO strategy lead at Snippet Digital. Andy, thank you so much for taking out time. It has been hard to, get you on the show, but happy to have you today.
No, thanks for having me. No, looking forward to it. Also co-founder of Snippet Keyword Insights, which is the tool side. But yeah, that's our main part now. But yeah, no, thanks very much for having me. Looking forward to it.
Absolutely. I mean, I was about to, deep dive deep into the, SaaS part of your business as well. But yeah, I mean, before we, start asking questions and, understand more about you and your journey, it would be great if you could introduce yourself, you know, both your companies and, what got you here.
Yeah, so thank you very much. So as you said, I'm Andy. I co-founded Snippet Digital with my partner Siganthan. Bit of background: I'm more content focused. He's more tech focused, with a nice little overlap in the middle. So between us, we've got everything covered. We're what we call like quite a boutique agency, in that we stay small but work with some pretty large enterprise clients. And the reason we can do that is A, we very much just focus on SEO, and B, we put a lot of our time and effort into developing our own software and our own tools. A few of those are actually licensed out to other agencies. They're ones you don't see publicly. So we've built some keyword research type tools which other agencies basically rent off of us. But we also have Keyword Insights, which is what we're well known for. It's our public facing SaaS tool. So it helps basically turbocharge your content strategy. Dump a load of keywords in there. It will help cluster them and basically help you work out what pages you need to create for content and how those pages should be linked to each other, etc., etc. But if you haven't heard of it, then definitely check it out.
Sure. I mean, we'll also share the link of the website as well. When we publish this interview.
Cool. No, thank you very much. It means a lot.
Andy, as an agency, one interesting part that I found was that you guys are fully remote.
Yes.
And you are scattered across. It's not that you're remote within the UK. How do you ensure maintaining company culture throughout the organization, and any specific things you do to make the people and the teams feel connected?
I mean, it is difficult, and it's one of there's a debate: are you pro office or pro remote? I'm down the middle, to be honest. I know as a company we're fully remote, but it is I like going into an office myself. I like speaking to people, and I thrive off of or just being around people. I'm very gregarious like that. So it is difficult. Short of having catch-up calls and things, there's not much we can do. We started the actual agency side of the business only about 3 years ago. Before it was just Sagantha and I Consulting. So it's been almost, well, we haven't been able to all meet up anyway because of the pandemic. So everyone has been working from home as they normally would. Now the pandemic's starting to lift. You're right. It's a question we're starting to ask ourselves now. There was recently Brighton SEO where we flew a few of our team members in. So that was cool. There's one of our team members is, unfortunately, he was based in Ukraine, but he's been displaced because of the war there. We are hoping to meet up with him soon and fly everyone out to Amsterdam. So it's a case of just setting some budget aside to, I guess, all meet up. But you are right; it is difficult to keep that culture up. I mean, we've got all the standard things you can do. We've got the Slack groups. We send people Christmas presents. We try and make the best of it, but there is definitely a case to be made for having office space sometimes, and it does take a certain type of person who is happy to be fully remote and stay motivated.
Yeah, and with metaverse and all these things coming, you never know.
We have done that actually. We have sent an Oculus Quest out to a few people just to test out how meetings go in there, and it is quite interesting. We're not sending it to everyone yet. We just don't feel like it's mature enough, but it definitely does help.
Right. Andy, how should marketers use keywords to craft their content, both for users as well as search engines?
I guess it comes back to this idea of, can you explain the question a little bit more? Sorry, like.
So basically, if you talk about SEO, right? I mean, a
Yeah.
lot of SEOs, when they're creating content, they would, look at the keywords. Again, the problems of keyword stuffing and just creating content from that keyword point of view. And then, there's a challenge that, okay, fine, you need to create content where you have all the relevant keywords as well. But then, it also has to make sense for the users as well. So how do you, ensure that, the content you're creating, is like, all right from SEO point of view as well, but it also makes sense for the users as well.
For fear of sounding cliche, I think if you're trying to look at your content for users and search engines, you're already doing it wrong. I think, again, for fear of sounding cliche, if you're writing content for users, that is keyword research led, i.e., you're surfacing topics you know they're interested in or will be, and you write naturally, being ensuring that you do cover, and everything that the top articles are talking about would do it better. Then you shouldn't really be thinking about, is this SEO friendly? It should just, if you're writing for the user, it will naturally do well anyway. So I guess I'll talk you through my process, and it maybe answer that question a bit better. We've got an example. We've got a furniture client, and we've done our keyword research around that. We've looked at what people are looking for um, in terms of this furniture. We've broken those keywords down into different intents. So you've got your transactional keywords. You've got your buy oak tables, purchase, for sale pine tables. They're obviously going to be product pages, and then your question becomes about tech SEO. Like, is the product page optimized in terms of the title? Is the keyword in the title? Is it in the H1, etc., etc., all that fun stuff. Then you get your content-based keywords, your keywords that trigger more long-form articles. When you've got those, then you basically, it is really as simple as this. And sometimes I don't understand why it gets overcomplicated. Look at the top 20 results on Google for, let's say the keyword is how to sand your oak table or how to get scratches off of your table. Google that keyword, or put it into Ahrefs, first of all. Maybe get the top 10 articles, whack them into SEMrush or Ahrefs, pull all the keywords that they rank for. And then your goal is basically to create a piece of content that is better than all of theirs. And it's not really that subjective. Have you covered all the same headings as them? Have you got all the headings that they've got? Have you got diagrams if they've got diagrams? Have you got a video if they've got a video? Is it better than theirs if you've got the image? Is it make more sense? Also look at the people also ask, have you included them on that article? And then it's as simple as that, really. I don't really think about, is this SEO friendly? Unless you're talking about, I make the right heading structures under the right heading structures. So, I've always got one H1 and then a H2 and then relevant H3s under that H2. That would be making it SEO friendly, I guess. But yeah, it's really simple. It's just looking at the top 20 articles and making one that's better than theirs. Again, word count shouldn't really come into it as well. We talk a lot about word count and it's got to be a minimum of 3,000 words. It doesn't. As long as you are covering everything they've done it, the competitors have, if you can do it in a more like concise way, then that's fine as well. You don't need to hit that word count. Does that answer your question? I might have gone off on a tangent there.
No, you're absolutely correct. In fact, and in fact, like the process you talked about, indirectly, you actually are also, taking care of the SEO part as well, because, like, so we have recently, like, again, tested quite some tools, but Surfer SEO kind of has helped us a lot, in this process where, again, like you said, so for every particular keyword, target keyword, like main phrase, you look at the top 10, URLs, and then just make sure that, like, even I think this also helps to understand the intent of that page as well. Like for us, maybe a particular keyword we are targeting, as a user or as a normal person, we might think that we need to create a service page as a target page. But what if, it's all informational pages or blog pages that are ranking in the top 10? That gives us an idea. Okay, fine. The intent has to be an informative page. And okay, fine. These are the main topics that all top 10 are talking about. And then, I think the main content just has to make sense for the user. which takes care of the SEO as well as make sure that the user is not bouncing off the page. So yeah, I mean, you absolutely answer it in the right way, and it kind of makes sense as well.
Cool.
Talking about Google business profile, like local SEO, Google business profile. What are the key elements that you look at when you're optimizing the Google My Business and like the Google business profile page?
So I mean, there's people who specialize in just this alone in local SEO and Google My Business, and I'm not one of them. So that there's probably better people to ask specifically around Google My Business. I know some really like incredibly intelligent people who literally all they do is Google My Business. But for me, it's the obvious things like making sure that the primary category, and that's an interesting one in itself actually, that the primary category is the right one. And by the right one, it doesn't. If you're a car dealership factory, a second-hand car dealership, you might think that should be your primary category. But if you look at others in the area and it's a lot more competitive, there's perhaps maybe another primary category that's similar that I would probably recommend going down that route instead. So look at the primary category and A, making sure it's the right one, but B, making sure if you're going after a competitive one, is there another similar one you can use? Then it's also look at the second categories, and I'm surprised at how many businesses don't utilize that. Again, something I always do if I'm optimizing a local business is there's plugins, there's Chrome extension plugins, but you can also right click and view the source code, and you can see your competitors' primary, secondary categories and what they've set it as. I always map these out on a spreadsheet and make sure that I'm at least covering what they've done, if not more, because you can always add more secondary categories. I can't remember what the limit is, but there's quite a few you can add there. So that's the first thing. Things like definitely the basics, like adding your opening times is a basic, adding your phone number and your address is a basic. Getting reviews is really important because that comes up front and center if someone searches your brand. But then something a lot of people miss out is asking questions on your own Google Business and answering them. So if I don't know, a restaurant, I would sometimes ask my own questions. Do you serve? Because a lot of people call up, and if you speak to restaurant owners, they often get the same questions. Do you serve this? Are your things gluten-free? Whatever. If there's constant questions you get, ask them on your own Google My Business profile and answer them, because not only does it take up more real estate on the search engine, you're overcoming objections before someone's even called you, especially common ones where they've called you. So there's a pro tip that I see a lot of businesses failing out on as well. What else is there? Images, again, if you're a restaurant, lovely images of food, stick all them on. Images of the outside of it to make sure it exists. There's a big problem with, would you believe, fake Google My Business profiles being thrown up.
Yeah.
Businesses make a lot of money fake businesses make a lot of money by setting up fake Google My Business offices and then selling those leads to other people. I always make sure, especially when it's things like plumbers and electricians, definitely put an image of the front door or something if you can, because I'm always a bit wary of actually if they exist or if they're just selling my leads on. So there's another way to stand out. I'm maybe a bit more wise to these things, so I know what to look for, but there are other people who would probably do the same thing.
No, absolutely. Talking about like these fake profiles, I remember around like 3-4 years back, a lot of people were manipulating this so much and had created like actual business out of it. In the States, they were calling this rank and rent. And like, they had the entire businesses around this. And then I think, like last year and even like before that, in the last 2 years, Google also has started coming down on it. And a lot of these fake profiles are getting like, abandoned. But yeah, I mean, there's still people that are manipulating it and, like creating these fake profiles and getting leads to it.
Yeah, so if you can add any images or anything to yours just to make sure you're telling people you're not one of these fake ones, that always helps. If you're a service-based company, I see this a lot. You can ensure, basically, you can take your address off of there and ensure that you service an area. and then a little red line comes up on the map and shows you. That's something else I see a lot of service-based companies missing out on. So yeah, there's quite a few, but I guess my pro one is that ask questions on your own Google My Business profile, answer them, because I think that's quite a niche little thing that a lot of people don't do.
Yeah, it's a good tip, and thank you for that.
Cool, no worries.
So Andy, you also work with some, big websites. Normally in e-commerce, this happens. Again, some people do it where, they want to have like a bigger text, and, they have this read more button, and the text is behind, some text is behind the read more button. Now, we often get asked, does the text behind the read more have the same SEO value as compared to the text that is visible? So what do you say about that?
So Google's official stance 5 years ago, or maybe longer, 5, 6, 7 years ago, the answer was no. It didn't have as much value in terms of SEO. If it's hidden, Google would assume that it's because it's not important and therefore place less weighting on it. With everything going mobile first, Google's official stance on it is they've lifted that rule basically because, of course, if you're trying to optimize for something on a mobile, then it's good for UX to not have just reams and reams of content available and expanded already. So their official stance is no, it shouldn't affect it. That said, there have been tests done, and I can't remember who's done it, but someone posted a really quite in-depth study on it. The long and short of it was, it would seem that in certain situations, Google is still giving less importance to things behind those accordions. So I guess, and I do take these tests with a pinch of salt because they can't be done in a fully unbiased environment. So it's difficult to really test it. So I guess what I do with my clients is I basically don't worry about it. If there's really important content, I always make sure there's at least a bit of it expanded, if there is some. But based on the fact that a lot of sites are mobile, well, a lot of users are going through the mobile, I tend to lean on favoring any potential slight negative SEO impacts on UX. I prefer the UX side of it just because it could be really bad otherwise. And then there's other ways to, I guess, force the rankings as link build. There's other things you can do that won't compromise that UX side of it. So I guess to summarize my answer, Google's official stance is no. Some evidence there is to suggest that isn't quite the case. I personally would make sure really important text is visible, but I don't worry too much about everything else, and I would prefer a nice UX looking page on a mobile.
Right. How have you seen link building change over the years?
Oh, it's gone from, well, absolute travesties from 15 years ago where it was people spinning up fake sites everywhere and linking to you. Obviously, that then went out the window with Penguin. Then it became all about, I guess blog posting. That I think is losing some of its value sometimes because, well, it's not. It's not completely scalable. It's quite a lot of work to get things written and then posted on other sites. I've then seen there was a big update a few years ago. There was a lot of link swapping going on.
Yeah.
And by the way, it's still fine. It's still fine to do, but the typical culprits with these mummy blogs and these bakery blogs who would swap my recipe link for your recipe link, and it looked really bad. And then Google cracked down on that. So, by the way, I'm not saying don't link swap, and I'm not saying don't guest blog posts. I'm just saying the effectiveness has come down. Especially, I still link swap, but I don't link swap with all the same sites all the time. That's the problem. I guess blog post is predominantly my form of link building because it's not as scalable. I certainly don't spin up fake sites or PBNs because that just doesn't work.
Absolutely.
Link building now, I think it's going towards, what I'm seeing a lot more of is PR, big PR stunts. There's a lot of focus on pushing the brand and getting the links as a result of that. So there's quite a few big agencies that have risen up, like Rise at 7 is one of the obvious one. And these agencies specialize in coming up with news and data-led stories. Oh, that's the other way. There's a lot more data available to us and a lot more people becoming confident with Python and things. So we can write a lot more of these data-led stories that get a lot more press. We've done a few ourselves, actually. So now I'm seeing link building becoming a lot more about getting journalists' attention and pushing to, these big pieces that get a lot of exposure. I don't think that's going to be around for too long either, because now papers and things have caught on, and they're a lot less likely to give you follow links. The journalists are few and far between. Their inboxes, if you've ever seen one, is full of like 300 emails. So it's also becoming a lot less likely to get their attention. So I'm thinking link building is going to shift again. But at the moment, that's where I see the main gains are through these big PR campaigns. But yeah, it's come a long way since spinning up fake websites and linking to you.
No, absolutely. So guest posting is, like one of the biggest things we do. And like you said, like it still works. But as long as, it's manual, you're reaching out to genuine sites and you're not like linking to like, multiple, sites in the same post. And, again, the site is genuine, target audience is relevant. It has a main category of that target audience, it still works. But you're right. I mean, it doesn't work the same way that it used to earlier.
And especially like Harrow was a big one. People used to go to help a reporter out and get included there. Increasingly, those links don't give you follow links either. So yeah, the landscape's changing and people are a lot less likely to give you follow links. So yeah, it's coming up with these other ways of getting them.
Right. Also talking about, like not being able to get a lot of follow links. How much important or beneficial do you still see like no follow links? Maybe like from like some big publishers or like no follow in general. What is your take on that?
Yeah, so it's huge. I would prefer a follow link, but I place a lot of value on do follow links. Again, Google's changed their stance within the last year or two. They now say that a don't follow or a no follow is more of a, what do they call it? It's a, what's the word I'm looking for? It's more of a signal rather than an actual rule anymore. So they still might be passing PageRank through on some of them. There's no way to officially tell. But yeah, there's definitely value in it. I mean, if you just get a link from Wikipedia, which is always no follow, you'll see the impact immediately. So there's definitely still some value in it. If nothing else, it's getting if it's like a unlinked, or if it's like a branded mention that has a no follow link. Again, Google says it doesn't take this into account, but like if the more your brand's being mentioned around the internet and linked to, it strengthens that idea to search engines. I keep talking about Google, but search engines in general, that this is a trustworthy brand. It might be a no follow link, but if it's constantly seeing links with your brand everywhere on authoritative websites, then it's only a good sign. More than that, we keep talking about SEO. Of course, there's obviously conversion benefits as well. If you get a no follow link on a blog that lists the top 10 places to buy mugs, and it's linking, no follow link, but linking to your site that sells mugs, you might not see an SEO benefit, but the amount of click through you'll get who actually convert is also really good. So yeah, huge value. I'd always obviously prefer a follow link, but I feel bad for link building companies who are, when they're reporting their KPIs and the client's dead set on just they only mark them on whether it's a follow or not. I don't think that's what they should be doing. I think they should also take into account the no follow link.
Right. Trying to rank for rich answers, rich snippets has a lot of value. How do you strategize for it?
To be honest, it's not. It's not something that a lot of thought goes into. I mean, we do strategize for it, but it's a case of using a tool like Ahrefs or SEMrush, looking at a page or a target keyword, or looking for target keywords that do trigger them, and basically looking at what it is that's triggering them and optimizing towards that. So if it's a recipe, what is it that this site is doing that we're not? Is it because they use a list? Is it because they number them and mark it up with schema? Okay, we'll do that. Is it because an image is pulling through, or a video? Okay, we'll copy that. So it's a case of, and there are plenty of guides out there, but it's just a case of having your target keywords and selecting the right options in your Ahrefs, your SEMrush, to pull through the keywords that have whatever search features you're looking to capture, and then basically copying what everyone else is doing, but doing it better again.
Right. Refreshing an old page versus creating a new one. What would you suggest?
Depends on what it is. If it's like, let's use an example. If it's Black Friday, I see a lot of businesses getting rid of their Black Friday page because it was in the URL. It was Black Friday sale 2021, and then in 2022 they obviously take the page down and spin up a new page, Black Friday 2022. That is bad. You are basically getting rid of all the. It might have links pointing at it. It might just its age in general. It's built up all this authority over time. So every time you take that page down and spin it back up again, you're just starting from scratch. So if it's in the case of a Black Friday page, I would always make it date agnostic. So I just have it as Black Friday, not put any date in it. The date can be the page start on the H1, sure, Black Friday 2021, whatever. When that sale's finished, hide the page from users getting to it, but definitely don't take it down and just refresh it from year to year. It's the same with any time-sensitive content, similar thing. If it's best Netflix show of 2022, don't just make sure when you're producing that content, don't put the date in the URL because then you're obviously going to have to change it every year. But the next year, just refresh it, and then it's still got all that authority there. New pages are good if basically if you're looking at your content and it is cannibalizing yourself or trying to approach too many topics at once, you might want to break it out into 2 new pages and refreshing the existing one. And actually, this is part of why we invented Keyword Insights. You can dump all your keywords into it, and it will basically show you, if you pull through certain insights, it will show you the times and the occasions where you've got a specific blog that actually you should be breaking out into 2 based on what the SERPs are showing. So in those instances, it's better to obviously spin up a new one than refresh the old one because we're telling you need to, break this out. But yeah, I guess to summarize on my point, where possible, I would always prefer refreshing rather than starting from scratch. But you can obviously only do that, which is a problem I see a lot, if your URL doesn't have a date in it, which a lot of people do for Black Friday and things like that.
Right. What are your thoughts on optimizing for voice search?
I think it's pointless. I said this 5 years ago when everyone was like, oh, voice search would be, and it was everywhere. Voice search would be the next thing of SEO. I was like, why? How? On what planet would I go and ask my voice search something and then remember the result it gave me, remember where it came from? It just doesn't happen. I think if you want to optimize towards it, it'd be the same as optimizing towards rich snippets. If you optimize towards a featured snippet, you will more than likely also get the voice search for it. If you ask who Andy Chadwick SEO is, I come up on the voice search because I've purposely done that, but it doesn't bring me any business. I just found it funny. So my personal thing is, and I sell this to clients who say we want to rank on voice for this. I always say why. I don't get it. It doesn't do anything. It doesn't bring any revenue in. If you want to capitalize on voice search, make an app. Definitely make an app that you can use with voice search. That could be cool. Like if you were a pharmaceutical company, you might make a specific app where you can call upon your business on that voice thing, and then it will ask you a series of questions to diagnose you or something cool. But I don't see the point, and I wouldn't see any value in the time spent to optimize towards voice search.
Right. Andy, what is your favorite client story? I understand there will be many, but the one which comes on top.
So we have a client. Well, they're not so small anymore. They were a startup furniture company, and they started a year just before the pandemic. So first year business was slow, as startups are. Started to take off, then pandemic hit. And this is a furniture company, right? So they're a luxury goods item, and people were a bit worried about the landscape and finances, and people being put on forced leave and things. So they were starting a really harsh time, but we pushed through. Our content strategy smashed it. companies went from turning over nothing, and they were bootstrapped by there was no funding. They didn't have much of a budget. And they went from turning over nothing to, I think the biggest month, 200,000, 300,000 pound a month, which was huge. And I remember at the time, the owner of the company, one of my, he's my friend now, we're good friends. He had to take on a secondary job. He was working at Domino's Pizza. So he'd be working from his company from 6 a.m. till 6, 7 at night, trying to grow his company. And then at 7 at night or 8 from 8 p.m. to 1 a.m., he was then going to Domino's Pizza, delivering pizzas and whatever, and then doing the same thing again to make ends meet. Our content strategy smashed it. We ranked for loads of keywords where basically we're overstepping our competition, who we shouldn't be because they've got a bigger domain authority. They now earn enough to pay themselves. So when that happened, I got a parcel through the post, and it was from the owner of the company. I opened it up, and it was his Domino's pizza jacket and a bottle of whiskey. And he was like, "Thanks very much for helping us. I've left my Domino's job now," and it's really nice. So I've got a Domino's jacket anyway. But yeah, it's just it was nice to have that feeling. We managed to alleviate the stresses or pressure of a new startup business.
Must be an amazing feeling that time when you received it.
Yeah, it's just nice that he was just hanging up his old Domino's jacket. It was really nice.
Any special advice that you would like to give our audience, that they can use and gain benefits from?
I'm sorry, I just missed that. My earphones crackled.
Any special advice that you would like to give our audience that they can use, and gain benefits from?
Yeah, I guess for fear of sounding like a broken record, always focus on the intent. Again, Keyword Insights does this. If you load a load of keywords into it, it'll tell you out of the top 10 results what the intent is. Is this keyword informational or is it transactional? You will often see, so you hear that a lot. You hear optimize for the intent. Everyone says that, but I think it's always helpful to get a real life example. And my real life example is this. You'll often be surprised at some of the results you get. They go against what you think they should be. An example might be CBD oil or CBD gummies. I used to think that keyword, and the way I used to categorize my keywords would have meant that CBD gummies was predominantly a transactional keyword. Surely if I type in CBD gummies, it means I want to buy one, right? In that case, actually, I think 6 out of the top 10 results are informational. They're guides, like, should you buy CBD gummies? Are they healthy? Do they work? So all these companies that are trying to build links to their product pages are basically scrabbling around for only 3 or 4 positions. Whereas if you start focusing on your content and competing with those guides out there about CBD gummies, you've got 6 or 7 opportunities to rank, and it's going to be a lot easier to do that. And then once you've got your informational article ranking, you really need to hone in on the user journey between that page and your product page. So really nice CTAs through, calls to actions through, and basically focusing on that journey. Tied in with actually focusing on your intent. Oh, another good example is iPhone 11. Surely if you Google the keyword iPhone 11, it means you want to buy it, right? I think 5 out of the top 10 results are informational. They're like specification guides, should you buy one, reviews. So if you're trying to optimize your product page for an iPhone 11, you're maybe not going to manage to rank it. So I know I said focus on the intent, but there's 2 examples of where you might be surprised. And then making sure that if it is informational, making sure that the user journey between that informational article and your product page is solid. Shopify do this really well. If you type in best digital goods, I think they rank number 1. You land on the Shopify page, and it talks about the top 10 best digital goods. But as you're scrolling through the Shopify page, time and time again, it's like, open a Shopify store with us, buy a Shopify store. A really good user journey from turning people who are informational into product-based. In line with that intent, there is this thing called fragmented intent. Not all results are transactional and not all results are informational. Some results are basically split down the middle, and you'll get 5 informational and 5 product-based. These are excellent opportunities to even try and rank twice. So again, Keyword Insights shows you this. You dump all the keywords in, it will show you like 5 and 5. I always filter for those keywords and make sure our client has both a product page and an informational page that targets it. Again, a lot of people then worry about cannibalization. Oh, I'm going to cannibalize myself. Like, surely I can't rank both. If there's fragmented intent, it means you can rank, for an informational and a product page. There's no risk of cannibalization. So also bear in mind this idea of fragmented intent and optimizing towards that as well.
I understand. I mean, thank you so much. But before I let you go, I, normally play a quick rapid fire round of 5 questions at the end, just for fun. So just ask you 5 questions, whatever comes to your mind, just, answer them straight away.
Cool.
Describe your style in one word.
Maverick.
That's a good one. One subject. Yeah. Actually, your voice. Yeah.
I don't do anything. If you go on my 404 page on my own website, I think it's me in a bathtub. Like, I don't like doing things normally.
One subject you would like to learn more about.
SEO. Because I really like physics and astrophysics, so about space. But I think if I'm focusing on SEO, it would be machine learning. So it's something we have developed into Keyword Insights and things. We use machine learning, but it's gone far beyond my capabilities, and we've got specialists who do that. But I wish I knew what they were doing. I mean, they're really clever.
What is your go-to lazy dinner?
Spaghetti bolognese.
Oh, my favorite too. A night in or a night out?
Night out all the time. Much to my partner's, she does. But yeah, night out.
What is your last Google search, if you remember?
I'm currently doing the keyword research for a contraception brand, so I'm not going to tell you what my last Google search was because it's not indicative of me. What was my last Google search? I think it was how to get to. It was Nando's. It was how to get to Nando's.
All right. Well, Andy, thank you so much. It was fun chatting with you, and I wish you all the best.
I appreciate that. Thank you very much for your time. And yeah, no, it means a lot. Thanks very much.